Live and we are live and we are back with episode 3. So we have managed to reach episode not 1, not 2. We have managed to reach episode 3, and that is an achievement in itself. When we reach episode 4, I'll do another song maybe. I'll probably do more songs before Daniel does the Ozil song. So we have reached episode 3 already, and big up to everyone who does support the channel and does come on in the comment section and on the panel as well. So I have my two guests here, one who's wearing a mask instead of a condom tonight, and that is Adam Brown, aka Football with Brownie, and Sam G, the rapper from Sam Greenwood TV. So
Yep,
before I
yep.
go ahead, Brownie, where can people find you apart from Inside Women?
People can find me on Football with Brownie on YouTube and on Facebook. My parents are here now, Natesh. I'm struggling to come back with you and with a clean answer. Do you know what I mean? But I tell you what, fuck these masks. I'm fucking boiling. So I'll just cool down with a beer.
I'm compensating for you, Adam, because I know you can't do most of the dirty stuff. So I'm compensating for you. I'm doing it for two people.
Well, I to be honest, I have already pre-apologized to them for any rude talk, but they will accept it. But when after the show, I know my mum will probably throw a bottle of vodka at me. But so you know, but I have asked them. I have asked them if they come on a show and tell the world about their experiences of COVID. Because in all fairness to them, we haven't seen each other, as you guys know, for the best part of the year with regarding quarantine and so on. But they basically put the fingers up to Boris, and they come out there, see their favourite son, stroke only son, and
haven't got a choice.
I know. They fucking broke already.
Adam already started with the intro. We didn't even conclude the intro, and he's already gone about the story.
Yeah.
But yes, going on to my second guest before we get started there, the one and only Sam. Where can people find you? And I like the rapper name, but I think there is already one Sam G that we know from our chat.
Hang on, guys. I may be 42, but my mum is going to bed, so I'm going to give her a good night kiss.
No.
Good night, Mrs. Brownie.
There you go.
Good night, Mrs. Brownie.
Hey, it's always good to keep brownie points, you see. Whether or not you're 42 or 12, it's always good.
Yes, exactly.
It's always good to keep a woman happy if you want peace.
Yes, true.
Yes. So coming on to Sam, I was saying that if you continue using the name Sam G, you will have to use Sam G Senior probably soon.
Yeah, Sam G Senior. Yeah, Sam's the old G, the old gangster. No, I've got this channel called Sam Greenwood TV. I'm going to be doing a late night chat, I think, about once a week there, going forward. About Arsenal, different stuff, Arsenal related. Have a few quizzes now and again. So if you can check it out and subscribe, I'll be grateful for that. That'll be good.
Oh, I forgot to ask people to subscribe, but never mind. My numbers are so fucking low.
So check it out, and let's have a nice chat.
Let's quickly get into the chat before we get into the chat. And big up Khan, big up John in the chat. And Khan is saying he scored a screamer today in football. And John is on his phone from sunny Gibraltar. Let's not get into the political debate. I know Adam wanted to say something, but hold your horses there. John is saying Brownie is holding it in big time. Bless him. And big up to Khan as well. And from the chat. Yes. So
hang on. Good. Before we go any further, regarding John's comment.
Yeah.
The moment my mum goes to bed, my father swears more than me, to be honest. But my moment she's finally in bed, shuts the door, I will be swearing my head off. Don't you worry about that. I'm just clock watching at the moment.
Yep. I bet even if she forgets to close the door, you will close it for her.
Yeah. And barricade the fucker as well in a bedroom. Barricade her in a bedroom so she can't come out when I'm effing and blinding.
Yeah.
You can probably take a blanket out as well. You'll need it at night.
Well, to be honest, if my mum had a blanket, she'd probably strangle me by the time the show is finished. Anyway, a question of John. You're in Gibraltar. I'm going to be free next week at some point if you want to meet up for a beer and.
You want to get laid. You want to get laid. That is the main question. John, if you want to get laid, Brownie is inviting you to his humble outlet.
No. To my humble local brothel.
I said it politely. I said outlet for the same.
Yeah.
He got the point. So before we go ahead into that, big up to Fred. I'm now quarantining because my friend from school has COVID. What's going on at your school, Fred? And he's worried. He's worried about that. And John is saying, Sam will be happy I've swapped my hat for a headband so he can laugh some more. Now I look like one of those footballers who loves themselves.
We look like Sergio Ramos now, do you?
We'll probably get a debut with John with the hat soon. The Hat Man.
Sergio Ramos or what was his name? McEnroe, John McEnroe.
Yeah, or Socrates. They used to play with
Socrates. Yeah.
We smoked 40 cigarettes a day, and he would still play. Top of his game.
Yeah.
And I'll just say one thing to Fred. Fred, I think you need to try that warm water treatment, and probably it's time you get tested if you haven't, because as you said, your friend from school has COVID as well. So it's high time you stop being paranoid about it. Don't worry and just get tested. It's finally that time you need to do it now. If you haven't already, just get tested again. So we have already spoken about my thing that is going on in India with respect to the lockdown, 7th month now. Adam spoke about Spain. I was saying France. Adam spoke about Spain. And now it's time to hear Sam's experience of the lockdown and overall how have things been in Norway so far. And how many months have you been in lockdown, or is it still going on, and what is the situation there?
No, we haven't been in lockdown now for a while. I think it was basically end of July. I think we finished our lockdown. Norway was a country we haven't really been hit very hard with it. We've been lucky. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of them being Norway. Our geography helps us a lot where we're very mountainous. There's a lot of Norway that's not habitable. We have a very sparse population. There's quite a long distance between cities and towns. Once you get out a bit, and so it's not that easy to spread here once it starts. So as soon as everything kicked off, the government did clamp down very quickly and basically put everyone into a quarantine quite quickly, and that really did stop the spread of it. And I tell you what, we haven't had much of it here, to be honest. I can actually tell you the numbers. Just one sec. We've got a page here.
I think I'll just add the best thing about Norway is I think everyone can keep their cock in their pants, and so they are not getting infected.
So in Norway, it's a total, including up until today, we've only had, and remember, Norway we're about 5.6 million population, so not a big country either, in population. But yeah, 5.6 million population. So we've had 12,300 confirmed cases and 265 deaths. So we've only had 265 deaths. So it's really been very
really
good.
Wales population of 3 million. Hang on, man.
Yeah.
Can you have a look what the death total is with Wales, because it's going up a bit? Oh, never mind. Sam, can you have a look at Sam?
Yeah, I'll have a look at Wales. Yeah, sure.
No, you said 5.3 million or whatever. Wales is a population of 3 million, so it's half of that. But I'm sure that those figures in Wales are worse than Norway.
Yeah, we're 5.6 million. We're 5.6 million people here in Norway, and I don't know what your population is in Wales, but yeah, you guys have had
3 million. 3 million.
Yeah, so we've had So just to compare, you guys are 3 million. Say we're close to 6 million. Yeah, say you guys are roughly half. We've had 12,300 cases. You guys have had 19,300.
Yeah,
and deaths in Wales. We've had 250 odd, and you guys have had 1,597. So you guys have had like 7 times more deaths.
Yeah. And basically, in my opinion, it's because the lockdown in Wales was poor. It was poor. It was a poor lockdown,
it's down to culture as well, isn't it? Because I mean,
exactly.
Here in Norway, we're one of these countries. We're a bit like Germany, where we have a lot of respect for authority. You know. If the government comes out and says you need to do this and this and this, then you'll find 9 out of 10, roughly 8 or 9 out of 10 people will follow that very strictly.
That's exactly the same in Spain.
As their nature, you know. Whereas you go to other countries, you know, where people they don't have a lot of respect for authority, it'll be the opposite. It'll be like 2 people who will follow it. I think that's been a big problem as well. People just haven't respected their authority, you know.
Because it's very much like in Spain, Sam, because let's be honest, Franco only died in the late 70s, so you've still got generations of people who were alive at that time, which was very strong dictatorship here. So it still got that kind of mentality. Especially with the UK, I mean, you put these mandatory masks on. I was talking to my parents earlier. Put mandatory masks on, but if you haven't got a strong will from the security forces to enforce, those mandatory laws, then people are just going to take the piss.
Exactly. Yeah, and one more thing. I think it also depends on how seriously the government has actually taken the COVID in the first place. I don't think a lot of people have taken it so seriously in the UK and even in the US from the government side of things. So that has been the problem. Yeah,
I think both. I think when you compare what we did here in Norway, the government came out quite. I mean, there was even a little bit of. There was a few weeks after everything started we saw internationally things started to, there was things happening. We realized all of a sudden, this is turning into a pandemic. There was a few weeks before the government here actually decided what to do, and people started to criticize them like, okay, we need an answer now. What's going to happen? So there was a bit of criticism. They took a little bit of time to decide what to do. But the positive side to that was when they actually came out with their plan, it was very well thought out and very comprehensive. So they took their time to really figure out how should we do this, how will it be best for everyone, taking a lot of different factors into account. And they came out with a really good plan, of lockdown.
As a response to that, Sam, I'm convinced, I don't know if you guys would agree, but I'm convinced that the hotter weather as we were coming into the summer, especially with the 7 European nations, Spain, Italy, the numbers started to decrease. And I'm convinced the weather has something to do with it. But would you agree that the northern European countries, UK, Norway, I wouldn't say used, because it hit the 7 European countries first, they were like the gerbils or the guinea pigs. Let's see what happens to them. We won't do football for 2 weeks to a month afterwards. Let's just see how they handle it. If they handle it bad, then we can do the opposite type of thing, Would you think that there was more of that?
I think there was a lot of comparison going on, surely. I mean, surely looking at how different places handle things, And also I think at the same time many different governments decided to do things a bit differently as well. I mean, like Sweden, our neighbours here, they decided basically not to do much at all.
Yeah,
and they got one of the they were quickly one of the highest both death rates and confirmed case rates compared to population in the world, and they were getting a lot of criticism, both internationally and also within their own people. But they decided no, we're just going to do slightly. We're going to close down a couple of things, but we're going to try and let society sort of take care of itself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll tell you what, they had a lot of trouble with it, but they just sort of powered through it and got to the other end. But listen, their deaths, their death toll and the amount of confirmed cases was very, very high. So it wasn't very good. But they decided to go a whole different way.
Just wanted to
one point. Oh, sorry.
Just wanted to add one quick thing. By the time that Boris and say Donald Trump figured out the difference between a pandemic and a pan pizza, it had already spread across the country.
Well, that's the thing. I just wanted to finish off my point by saying that, listen, a lot of this is down to how governments how seriously they've taken it and what kind of actions they've taken. And you've seen, unfortunately, with both Boris and especially with Trump, that they just haven't taken it seriously enough. And Boris reacted too late. He took it seriously too late. And then when it gets too late, then what can you do? You can't stop it. It's too late, isn't it?
Is that though linked to what you mentioned earlier on, to the society of the countries in question? I mean, let's be honest. The US, American citizens, British citizens have never really been under dictatorship, let's just say.
No.
And would both countries be thinking, look, if we put real hard, strong measures in, these people aren't used to it. And I've always said this to any British person who I contact and they ask, how was it? And I say, I'll tell you something, if Britain had such a strong lockdown like Spain did for 3 months, people wouldn't be able to cope. Absolutely no way. And I think it was the tact of, okay, tell the people what is happening, and just hopefully the people can use their common sense and kind of police it themselves, although it didn't actually work out like that in the end.
No, I think you know what I mean? Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think, that is definitely a big part of it. But also I think it's down to each government, not taking it very seriously until it's too late. And especially with America, because you know what America's like. A lot of their people have a large disdain for government. They don't want government.
Exactly.
They want they want freedom. It's freedom and it's capitalism. And when they tried, and each state, it's basically each state for themselves, right? The different 50 states doing their own thing. And many of the states are very, very, they want freedom and they don't really want the state to intervene. And so when many of the states, they started with a lockdown. It didn't take long until when they started realizing they were losing business. They basically said, listen, we're not going to do this because we don't want to lose business. And because that's how important business is, of course, for America.
Definitely.
And that's it. When you keep everything open and try and pretend it's not a problem, then that's when you get all your problems. And they're a huge mess now. And it's probably going to be, until we get a vaccine, America's going to be completely off limits. I mean, there's no way they can control what's going on there now until they get a vaccine.
A few of my friends, at the time in which UK were doing, was it every Thursday they were clapping for NHS workers?
Yeah.
Which I got no problem at all on that. But because we started it in Spain and the UK followed through. But there were people who were out on the street clapping for NHS workers. And then because that was a Thursday, I think, every Thursday or whatever. And then just 24 hours later, then they were inviting friends and family over for house parties. And people are like, how fucking hypocritical can
that's
be?
again, that's down to ignorance. That's down to people's ignorance, their lack of understanding, and their lack of wanting to follow authority. I mean, and also when you've got you got no one really enforcing it at the same time, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you've got no one enforcing it, so people do what they want.
Yeah. I think the fines were like 40 quid. I mentioned this on the first show. I think the fines in the UK were like 40 quid. Now, I could go out on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday daytime, watching a football show on, easily blow, in a day and night, easily blow 100, or I used to anyway, 100 quid in a day. And you think, okay, well, if I lose 40 quid, I've still got 60 quid to play with against a normal Saturday bloody night on a piss.
Yeah.
So because the fines over here, if you were caught with COVID at the time, we're talking about when it was really high, if you were caught breaking a curfew, they treated it as manslaughter. So it was either £100,000 fine or imprisonment. And
then you actually do get a reaction from people, right? I suppose they would stay in line a lot more. I mean, over here it was different, because over here, as I said, people are naturally inclined to follow authority because it's just the way the Norwegian people are. They're very obedient. But it's not down to the police being very overbearing or anything like that. It's just the way Norwegians are. We're a very
would it be
kind, obedient people. And the police have actually said here, and the police here actually come out and said, because we don't have the Norwegian police is not very large, and they're already overstretched as it is with what they have to do day to day. So the police actually said, listen, we've been tasked to enforce quarantine rules and things like that. If you see someone who you think is breaking quarantine, or you see a large group or whatever, they're supposed to break it up and fine the people involved. But they haven't been doing it because they say, listen, we don't have the resources to do it. We've got to focus on real police work. So they've even come out and said they don't have the resources to enforce it, but still people here have been quite good about it. But listen, we've had a little spike again as well, because people have relaxed. It's relaxed too much in the summer now. People were taking it like, it was gone when it wasn't. So there was a lot of people on around in parks and that, getting together in parks and gatherings and things like that, that they really shouldn't have. So we had a little spike again, but it's okay again now. We've hardly had anybody really affected by it. I mean, seriously. So so it is what it is. But for me, you can see the way different governments have just completely mishandled it, and just completely, they've just botched it up. And you can see how little prepared countries are for this. I mean, our government had to actually come out and say, listen, we're not prepared for this as we thought we'd be, And I think that's the same for most countries. They're just not prepared for a pandemic.
Well, exactly. I mean, right at the early stages of the pandemic, which I was talking about to my parents earlier, at the early stages of the pandemic, basically every country wanted face masks at the same time.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And
there was no stockpile. There was no stockpile.
Yeah. But on the flip side to that, the EU did not help. EU states.
Oh, you saw there were huge problems, wasn't there? I mean, there was huge problems logistically with all of this when it comes to all the equipment that was needed, all the PPE, all the personal protective equipment and all that.
What they were doing, Italy, it was a big uproar with the UK regarding face masks going to frontline services. Italy had it far worse at that time than the UK, and it took the EU a month after face masks were going to the UK to Italy to have the first shipment.
I know, and that's the EU for you, right? The EU is a huge. That's the EU for you, right? I mean, that's a huge bureaucratic juggernaut that, you know, it takes them 10 weeks to decide if they're going to shit or piss. You know, it's
they were funding Iran for COVID before they were funding their own member states. It's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, that sounds like a typical EU type of thing. I mean, the EU is just, it's a huge bureaucratic juggernaut, isn't it? It's just pretty hopeless in the way it works. But yeah, anyway, so that's a different discussion. But yeah, but listen,
we digress.
But the thing is, I think it shows now that this listen, we're going to have a pandemic again in the future, because it's happened. There has been pandemics, just not in Europe and America. So I mean, to this level since the Spanish flu, right? Which is the early 1900s. So, you know, we've got to realize there's been two pandemics in the 2000s that have been in Asia that haven't reached us because they managed to stop them quickly.
Yeah.
You know, we had the SARS outbreak, and then there was another one. I can't remember what it was called. There was another one there was another outbreak as well.
Ebola, wasn't it, in Africa?
Ebola is in Africa.
No, Ebola was in Africa. It was quite limited in Africa, but
the AIDS one.
Bird flu.
Yeah, H1, was it H1N1 or something? H1N1, yeah. H1N1. That one and SARS, those two outbreaks we had in Asia that they managed to stop quite quickly. But listen, these outbreaks, they happen, and when this one finally was a big one that reached Europe and America and all over everywhere, I mean, we open our eyes to it now, right? I mean, and we see how poorly prepared we are. So I think now we have to take this seriously and get prepared for the next one. You know, we have to have a stockpile of PPE. We have to have enough resources to treat them. Mm-hmm. You know, there has to be enough emergency equipment to treat them. And that's what we saw. We saw everything was so poorly set up, right? And that didn't help.
Yeah.
You know, that meant people died and became seriously ill without getting the treatment they should. And yeah, I mean, it's been a mess. It's been a mess. Some countries have handled it better than others, but overall, it's been a mess, hasn't it? And some countries are still suffering. I mean, unfortunately, Nitish, his country is suffering badly now still, and you know, it's tragic, isn't it? I don't think we're gonna get back to any kind of normality until we get a vaccine. You know, the vaccine has to come.
I agree. I mean, me and my dad were watching the football earlier on, and even though the season still started, you know, and because there's no fans in the ground. It's just not the same.
No, of course not. Of course not the same.
You know, and whether over here, whether I'd watch Gibraltar, Marbella, or even go Malaga or Real Madrid, you know, because I do miss actually attending a football game.
Where do you normally go? Do you normally go watch Malaga?
No, I'm not really a Malaga fan. Locally, I would go Marbella if I can get up on a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon. But normally I'd go Real Madrid.
You're that far from Sevilla? You're not that far from Sevilla either, are you?
No, I got a few friends, but they're more Betis fans. And they promised me for far too long now to take me to a Betis Sevilla derby. But I enjoy going to Gibraltar, I'll be honest with you. You can get pissed on the sideline.
John is coming. He's warning you.
No. But it reminds me of non-league football back home. Marbella, I do like it. It's the equivalent of what, League One, although it's all regionalised. But I would normally spend my money probably.
Are you in the Marbella Ultras?
No.
The only ultras that he will probably have is some ultra beer. And
tell us extra strong.
Sorry, no, go on.
I just wanted to get into the comments because there are a lot of comments and the people in the chat are talking. And John was talking about the hat that he was wearing. That is the time since when the comments are coming in. He's saying, at least I'm not sweating like Brownie's ball sack with that bloody hat. And Fred was concerned about the friend who sits next to him. You'll be fine, Fred. Said by John. Football Daily Talk was saying good vibes. And John, again, hope you got lucky and you didn't get it. That is with respect to Fred. And Football Daily Talk is saying wash hands again for Fred and for everyone. Let's be safe and sanitizer. And there is a troll in the chat. He's saying his name is unsub from Football Daily Talk. So he said that. And Football Daily Talk said unsub. No, Fred said unsub from Football Daily Talk. So they're going on at it. And Khan is saying, I'm sleeping. No, I'm not. I was just waiting for the discussion. And John is saying, Nitish needs more mods. No, I don't. I'm fine. But yes, with respect to the other chats coming in, John is saying that there is a fine balance between ruining your economy and keeping people safe. It's an incredibly tricky decision. We will get into this as well. And he's saying a lot of countries fucked up nursing homes, especially UK. And would you guys want to comment on this before we go ahead?
No. Yeah, I mean the way the nursing homes were not prepared at all, were they? I mean, the PPE was lacking, and the people who are basically the people who were in the most dangerous bracket, the elderly people, especially with pre-existing conditions and everything, in these these old people's homes, elderly treatment homes. It was them who didn't have the resources, and they were the ones who should have had a priority, right? I mean, it was terrible the way they got treated, and they just turned into death traps, really, didn't they? Many of those old people's homes, because unfortunately, it was the elderly who basically, they were the ones who got it worst, right? I mean, it's the elderly who were the most likely to die.
Well, I fully understand that point and respect it, but on the other hand, a lot of I did mention this previously. A lot of found out after a government investigation that a lot of doctors or were signing off death certificates of COVID, and the people weren't being tested. Now, with regarding being in an old people's home, it's not nice to say, but would a percentage of those people be already ill for something else? Or and this just helped the process become quicker, I suppose.
Well, that's the whole thing with pre-existing conditions, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you have a pre-existing condition and you get COVID, then you're much more likely to die because the pre-existing condition is not good, right? So
no, I agree. So why would COVID be on the death certificate and not the
because COVID is the accelerator. COVID is what causes you to die.
Yeah. And I will just say one thing to John's comment: fuck nurses, not nursing homes.
Yes, the nurses we can do with, it's okay. Yeah. No, but I mean, listen, many of those homes turned into death traps. I mean,
I
remember there was this one. I think there was this one I read about in the UK somewhere where there was over 30 people in the same home who died, roughly at the same time. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you could just imagine it must have been a nightmare.
Yep. And I'm putting the link in the chat as well for people to come on, and quickly I'll just read some of the other comments. Jahid is saying it's a fun question. One question: would you get arrested if you said "bumbaclat" in public? I don't know what bumbaclat is.
Bumbaclat is a Jamaican term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's probably thinking about bomb, isn't he? A bombaclat, yeah.
Bumbaclat. And Cheddars is saying non-league football is awesome. I watched St. Albans. And
St. Albans.
I've been to St. Albans. I watched St. Albans. They played an Arsenal friendly there once. I went and watched that.
Yeah. I watched St. Albans play my hometown Merthyr Tydfil tour. Would have been in the 90s in the FA Trophy. And the final score was Merthyr won 5-4. It was a great game and a great little ground as well.
Yep. And John is saying it's an accurate description about our football from Brownie.
Well, Rangers are playing it tomorrow in the UEFA Cup. It's unfortunate that no crowds are allowed in.
Yeah.
But come on, Brownie, you always find a hole to get into.
I know. Normally it's a fucking deep hole. One of these days it'll be a deep hole 6 foot under.
And big up to Cheddars and Jaid from John as well, from us as well. And Cheddars is saying even suicides are being marked as COVID US stats.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be crazy. I mean, like, how can someone hang and have a virus, or someone jump off a building and have a virus?
Well, there's been a lot. Yeah.
Did that person catch the virus while they were falling down from the building?
yes. No, I mean, listen. There's been a lot of this.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, but the problem is, there's been a lot. The problem is when it comes to the documentation of things. There has been a lot of. They haven't tested basically a lot of people properly, and it's been marked down as COVID, hasn't it? And I think but that can work. That can work both ways, because when people die and they haven't been tested, they could also have had COVID where it wasn't known they've had COVID as well. So those numbers could work both ways. It could mean the numbers could be higher. It could mean the numbers could be lower. But it can work both ways, because if you don't know what someone's died from, you don't know. So
well, I tell you a little story about a brothel up in Toledo, which is near Madrid. Okay, right.
Perez's winter home.
Right. Before the shutdown, right? It was a day or two before the shutdown. Toledo, I think, is in the region of Madrid as well, so they would be on the Madrid shutdown. Anyway, some guy. This is an idea of the doctors were saying at the time. This is what happened. Basically, one guy goes in with COVID, does his stuff, has a few drinks with all the women, goes to a room with a woman, and then comes out. Then all of a sudden, because he was all the women who were around him having drinks and so on, all the women then had it, and all the next customers started to have it as well. So the town mayor was panicking, because he was thinking, well, hang on, married mothers won't know that their husbands have gone to the brothel and coming home with COVID. It was, half a town had it.
Bloody hell, that's spread around.
And it all started in a brothel, yeah.
Correct.
And Khan had come in, but no worries, Khan. We'll see you on Friday. No worries about that. Right now, anyways, we are going in a direction which is not suitable for kids. I would just say that as the minimum lining in the sand. But yes, John is saying they sent in patients without testing them and killed loads of elderly because of that. And I can see it from my window. Sam has seen my view.
Yeah, he sent me a picture. He sent me a picture of the view outside his window. You can see there's a stadium out there. You can see from his window.
Victoria Ground. Yeah.
So,
there's something for you about Victoria Ground. That is the only, as it stands, that is the only ground in the whole of Gibraltar. Okay, so the Gibraltar National League.
Mm-hmm.
They have to play. They play at the same ground. All play at the same ground, and it basically takes a day or two to get through every single fixture.
All right, bloody hell!
So you could pay to go in, and you could watch 10 games if you really had.
That sounds like good fun, actually.
Well, only about 50 people agree with you because that's the attendance, but never mind.
But
that's probably because of football shit, though, isn't it? I mean, come on.
It's a shit fact for you anyway.
But I would say John can definitely try to get some work maybe in that football club. It will be way more fun than working elsewhere. Working with a football club is always fun. And he's saying he's talking about
it isn't, my friend. It isn't. Believe me.
He's talking about, come on, Lincoln Red Imps are going to batter Rangers. Then I laugh.
Yeah.
And Cheddars is quickly saying the most important thing is that guy got laid.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share with you guys a theory that I had put out to Apollo. And before I start off, I just want to say that I am not trying to hurt anyone's sentiments, but this is a theory that I put to Apollo in one of the posts. I told him, this is with respect to the US. Say, suppose I am a guy. Imagine I am one person who does not like the black community. So what I do is I attack one of their members. They all come out to protest, and then suddenly their entire community has COVID. And that is what I thought was what it could have been one of the reasons which was the planning for the entire, which led to the Black Lives Matter movement. Like someone intentionally attacked another person from another community just to get all their community out, and they would then not follow the norms of social distancing, and before we know it, their entire community would probably have the COVID. So I put this theory out to him, and then who takes responsibility if the entire community is infected with COVID, and at the end of it all, they are like their elderly pass away because of the disease. So this was one theory that I put out to him when there were protests going on in England and there were protests going on in the US. And I told him, if someone really smart, I'm not saying Donald Trump because I said smart, in the US wants to start such a thing, and he actually hates a particular community, he could just start this in times of a pandemic, and it could actually ruin an entire community. Though they are trying to do something good, it could actually result in something totally opposite. And that is what I had told him, and he kind of agreed with me that if today if you have any animosity or if you have any hate for a particular community, just get them out on the streets. Just find a way to get them out on the streets. They'll all protest. They will let go of the social distancing norms. They'll all get infected with COVID. Some of them will die. Some of them will suffer. Some of them may have the symptoms or the after effects for the rest of their lives. You never know what could happen.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Adam.
No, well, something similar happened. I mentioned this on the first show. Madrid, it wasn't when it first came out in Spain. Madrid was the where everything was. Madrid should have been shut down like that, no problem at all. But the government was stalling for a few days, and during that stalling time, 110 women marched, for women's rights. 110,000.
Weren't they nude? Weren't they nude?
No, they weren't.
Oh, damn. No point. Okay, go ahead.
110,000 women marched in Madrid protesting, about women's rights. Those 110,000 women, or protesters, let's just say, then returned home to every single part of Spain. So it's a slight link to what you say in the test. It's basically, big gatherings like that should have been banned from the start until this pandemic is under control.
They did try to do that. Before that, let's go to Sam.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what you were saying there, in theory, that could work. Theoretically, you are correct. But in terms of Black Lives Matter, I'm sorry, it doesn't hold up, because Black Lives Matter has been a movement that's been around for years.
At different levels, just different.
It hasn't just started now with in the times of the pandemic with that George, Floyd. I can't remember his name. Who got killed. George Floyd, yeah. Yeah, it just didn't start with him. It started a few years ago.
Martin Luther King.
Well, that's now you're talking right back to the start now of the civil rights movement. But I'm talking about this Black Lives Matter movement that started a few years ago. Well, more than a few years ago. So it's not just now with the pandemic, but yeah, I mean, theoretically you can if you want. Theoretically, you want to start a protest, action or whatever. You do something like that, and people are going to come out in numbers to protest that. Then theoretically, I think that could work. And in America, definitely in America, because in America they don't care about the rules and the regulations. They just do what they want.
And the conversation goes back to what we were just talking about 20 minutes ago or something. Because America and Britain, the citizens, aren't used to such control by their governments, they are just ignoring social distancing rules and creating marches and protests where in many other countries, while a lockdown was going on, would never accept. The problem when that happened with Spain, the government knew, fuck, we have properly fucked up because cases coming over all dotted over Spain within a day or two, you know. So that is where they were chasing their tail, and that is when they done not just Madrid, the whole of Spain, such a severe lockdown. It was, you know, because they knew they fucked up and they wanted to.
Another thing that was a complete something I thought was something that was completely missed, and that is there should have been a lot more effort put into making a proper testing kit that could be done quickly, you know, just like checking your blood or something like that, something that can be done very quickly. You know, a real proper a real proper research done into, because they made all these different types of kits. There's all these different countries and places that like all tried their own and did their own, and basically the best they could come up with was you got an answer within a day or something like that. You know, and it's not good enough. You can't do mass testing where you have to wait a day to get a result. You know, I mean, they should have put resources into to get, you know, making a test where you get a result, I know they have this one where you get like a nearly certain result, but for me, how can you have a test that, first of all, only has a nearly certain result? You can't actually be 100% reliant on that's the actual result. That's the one they've been using.
That is like a lie detector.
Yeah, it's basically like a lie detector. I mean, how can you? They've been using that just as a quick solution thing, but that was useless. But they should have put their research into making a proper, reliable, 100% reliable testing kit where they just test your blood or something like that, and you get a result within minutes or hours at the worst. They should have done that, and then that way we could actually done mass testing, because this whole mass testing should have been done, you know, by setting up and testing people. We should have been testing hundreds of thousands of people every day. I mean, look at I mentioned this as well. Look what happened in World War II when we were in a crisis. You're right. When we were in a crisis where basically we thought the world, you know, the Nazis were going to take over the world. What did we do? We put all our efforts and resources and focus into making weapons and making what we needed to do to beat the Nazis. So we went away from all regular manufacturing, and we focused all the manufacturing on making weapons and what we need for the war, right? And that really helped us get the resources we need to win the war. Both America, who put huge resources into it, as well as the UK. And I'm saying, why the hell didn't we do the same for this? When we had a pandemic we knew could potentially be really, really dangerous, a lot worse than what it turned out. Why weren't we putting all our resources into first making a test so we could actually start mass testing people, and then put all our resources in mass testing? Like you set up, you bring in the army, you bring in the National Guard, the civilian guard, you bring in everything you can, all the resources you can from everywhere, set up test stations locally everywhere, and just start testing people. You know, get everyone in, get everyone tested as quickly as you can in an most organized fashion you can, and that's it. Just figure out who has it and who doesn't. For me, it was I couldn't figure out why they weren't thinking along those lines. It was just like, oh, let's just let people do their own thing. You have to stay at home, and it was just weird to me that they didn't put more of a focused effort into getting things, you know, fixed.
And before I get into that, I just want to say that Brownie went for his Nazi wank. As soon as you said Nazi, he dropped out. But yeah, I just want to say what happened with respect to this is, the fact of the matter is that the world was relying on a crap body or a crap organization called the WHO, which eventually let them down. WHO went to every country collecting money, saying that we will research, we will find a solution, we'll find a vaccine, we will get you out of this. At the end of maybe say 6 months down the line, they couldn't do crap. And one more thing, if you remember, then they started giving, they weren't even honest about the fact that it was airborne or how it was spreading, how long it was taking. And other thing is, the other details were not coming, right details were not coming from China as well. If you remember one fun fact, You were talking about Italy. Italy donated a lot of PPE kits and a lot of machinery to China because they had good relations. When they wanted them back, the Chinese asked them for money for the same, to give them back their own. So
all about money. All about money.
Yep. So the thing with that is why Italy's situation went from bad to worse so quickly is because the resources that they had just to put up a good political image that hug the Chinese and help the Chinese, they fucked their own country up. And because of that, the leadership, I was surprised when you remember, if the German finance minister, he committed suicide because his country was in shambles, but no one in the Italian government had the balls till finally, I think the head, I think it was the prime minister or the president, I don't remember, prime minister, I think, he came out on live television and he said, unfortunately, we can't handle this anymore, we have given up. So till that point of time, they were not ready to accept that they had made a mistake while they were starting that Hugger Chinese campaign, and they had given away all their equipment to China instead of keeping
well, that's what's behind it all. Like Cheddars is saying, the countries that have private healthcare got quicker access to the tests, the working tests. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's the problem, right? It was all driven by money. It was all, they paid for it, you know, and got access to it ahead of everyone else. Where really all the government should have just, you know, worked together and said, listen, let's all put our money into this. Let's get a test. Let's get a real proper test working that gives you a result straight away. And let's all put our money together to pay to get it done for everyone, you know, and set up some kind of, you know, logistical setup where you're using all your resources you can. You're putting all your focus, you know, your army, your civilian guard, you know, the civil guard and all of that, you know, the reserves, everything into setting up local stations and getting people tested, you know.
And I would really like to do a research for the upcoming episodes and find out one detail. Sure.
Yes. Oh. I just think I got a call from Brownie.
He will probably say, I got disconnected, Sam. The internet, the Wi-Fi. But what I was saying is, I wanted to say one thing, that I would like to do a research. I would like to do a study for the upcoming episodes and find out how many WHO workers were actually infected, or how many of them died because of COVID. Because I feel that a lot of healthcare workers have been infected and have died from COVID, but I don't think WHO workers have really been impacted as much as some of the other people who are working in different countries to prevent it. I don't think WHO, the organization that started the research from the beginning, has taken such a hit in comparison to other healthcare workers, and that is kind of fishy. How the WHO not get infected, or people working in the WHO not get infected, and healthcare workers are dying every day, when the WHO has been exposed to more of this virus, because they were the first ones to do research, they were the first ones to start off research.
I think a lot of WHO affiliates and workers have been affected. I mean, I think you make it sound like, you know, listen, the WHO could have done a better job. Unfortunately, they're a big organization again, you know, where, you know, things don't always move quickly and things like that. Yeah, of course, you know, that's a problem, but they have collected all the data, and they are giving scientific advice, and they are heading up a lot of the joint efforts from different countries to get a vaccine. You know, I mean, they're doing a lot of good things. But yeah, with the WHO, it moves slowly. You know, it moves slowly, and yeah, they haven't reacted as well as they should in many instances, and you know, definitely. But again, I don't think it's all. I don't think we can put very much blame on them for a lot that's been going on. We've got to put blame on local governments for not reacting properly and not being prepared, and not spending the resources, the money on the resources they should as well. You know, I mean, there's a lot of blame each individual government has to take for this. And I just want to say, Brownie sent me a text message saying he run out of data and he doesn't have Wi-Fi set up yet. So he's run out of data. He's run out of data, so he can't come on.
No worries. But yeah, what I was saying is that I would like to see the numbers. That is what I was saying, because as I said, a lot of countries fed them the money, but eventually I think the results aren't there yet. They are trying. I'm not saying they're not trying, but I think they have over committed and over promised than what they have delivered so far. And one thing I would like to ask you again with respect to this: do you think that if a country eventually comes up with a vaccine, the perfect vaccine for COVID, do you think they will just give it to the WHO if the WHO asks?
First of all, I think we're close to a vaccine. I was reading today that China, there's the largest company in China doing late stage testing now. They're saying they could be ready by the end of November. They reckon they'll have a fully working vaccine ready to be distributed by the end of November, which would be great if that happened. But yeah, I mean, but then you've got to go to the WHO and they've got to start negotiating then how they're going to handle this, and basically it's going to be money, isn't it? They're going to want money for this.
Yep.
And that comes down to each country, to negotiate a price for the vaccine, right? Each country is going to have to buy. They're going to have to figure out some way of mass producing it as well. So this is where things have to be coordinated at a macro level, right? You have to have a large international organization like the WHO to help organize this. And of course the WHO are going to do. That's part of their job. They're going to help organize help countries come together to decide, okay, how are we going to mass produce it? Who's going to produce it? We're going to have several countries producing it, and then it's going to be distributed. And but it's going to cost money, of course. And this is the thing. How much money is it going to cost? And this is where countries have to be strong and say, and I hope for God's sake, the company, if it does turn out this way with China and this company, that they don't turn into fucking horrible monsters and say, no, we're not going to give you this vaccine unless you pay us $1 billion or something like that. I mean, there has to be some kind of decency in it as well, where they said it. But listen, it's not just China. I mean, this is the good thing about it, is we're not just relying on China. Yes, it looks like China might be closest to a working vaccine at the moment, but listen, there are many other countries developing vaccines as well. So we're not just relying on China, thankfully.
Yeah, I think rather than relying on the Chinese, I would rather start counting my days. But but going on to one question I just wanted to ask you, which was a simple question. Everyone knows that Boris isn't considered too credible in the UK. I mean, he gets a lot of abuses, he gets a lot of hate. So no, not too many people living in the UK consider him to be a credible leader. That is what I have taken in so far from a lot of people. Even people in Europe don't take him to be a credible leader. But I just want to ask you one thing: that what is your take on this? Why didn't Prince Charles probably come out and, like Brownie was saying, that UK has never been under a dictator? Understood, but they have been under a queen and a prince. So
Monarchy,
why didn't probably Prince Charles come out and actually say that, who had been infected himself, that this is something that you guys need to take seriously? Whether Boris takes it or not, you guys need to take it seriously. And
traditionally, this is the thing. I mean, it's a constitutional monarchy, right? So yes, the Queen is the head of state and she has to sign off on every law. But she is, again, it's just symbolic. It's just a protocol, right? She can have influence on the government by telling them what she thinks should be done, blah blah blah. She can do that, but traditionally traditionally they haven't done that, right? Because it's a democracy for the people. They realize that they're not in power anymore. It's not the monarchy that has power. It's the people. It's the government, right? So this, for them, it's just symbolic. Their power is just symbolic. Yes, they'll have. I mean, if Prince Charles or the Queen or any of the top royals came out and said we should be doing this or should be doing that, yes, it would create a lot of focus, a lot of media attention. It would criticize the government. It would criticize the government. Yes. But it wouldn't mean the government would do anything, because it's the government they're in charge, not the Queen. The Queen's not in. She's not, even though she's the head of state symbolically, she can't do anything. I mean, the Queen can't physically do anything. It's the government.
No, I mean to say, as an appeal, they could have come out because obviously Prince Charles himself was impacted and he was infected with the COVID. So I think
could have said something. Could have said, but I was just going to go on to say that traditionally now, this is what it's been like in the UK since it's only become a symbolic monarchy. They don't come out and say things against the government. They don't do that. That's not in their place. You know, it's all the the tradition and everything. They don't do that anymore. They haven't done that since they become a democracy.
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say, but what my thought process was that at least someone influential could have said as an appeal. I'm not saying as a word of law that at least that I have also suffered from COVID. He would have said.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that would have been a good thing. I think that would have been good. I agree with that. It would have been a good thing. It might have got people much more interested in doing the right thing. Maybe it would have influenced the government to put more effort into it and do the right thing. I agree with you. But just talking in reality, they wouldn't do that. Prince Charles wouldn't do that. The Queen wouldn't do that. None of the top royal family would do that because they don't feel it's in their place to do that.
Well, yeah, that is the thing. And just reading out a quick comment from Cheddars, and we can wrap it up in a minute or two as well. He said they can stick the vaccine up their ass, not touching a vaccine that took 8 months to develop. So I think he's totally against the vaccine. And yes, so that is that. Unfortunately, we don't know whether we'll be able to go out before the vaccine is in Norway. At least the conditions are way better than the rest of the world, as per what you have said. Hopefully,
we're very low.
Yeah, hopefully they remain the same. Is football going on in Norway like regularly?
Yes, no, not with the fans. No, we're still doing football behind closed doors here. Yeah. The law at the moment is we can't have gatherings of more than 200 people. If you have more than 200 people, then it's not allowed.
Okay, and what are the regular cases? Just last one or two questions. What are the regular daily cases right now at the moment?
We've had during the last 5 days, I think we've had about 80 cases because we've had a little spike. But there's only been like 4 or 5 out of those 80. There's only been like 4 or 5 that have gone to hospital.
So others are self-isolating. So that is good. That is good. Yeah, I think it's on the verge of getting over if people maintain the norm.
Since the end of since the end of lockdown, which was the end of July.
Yeah,
there's only been 1 death. So
okay.
it's we're doing very well with it.
Yeah, 1 death is nothing in compared to what the world is suffering right now. Yeah. So on that positive note, let's just quickly wrap it up. I think all of our viewers have anyways gone to sleep. So just give a quick shout out to your channel and hope to see you in the upcoming episodes as well. Unfortunately, Brownie had to behave today. Otherwise, maybe the video would have been more crazier than what it was. But yes, just a quick shout out to your channel again.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, Sam Greenwood TV is my channel. I'm going to try and do a weekly late evening chat, which will be more light-hearted, a bit more, can use a bit more colourful language, have a bit more fun around Arsenal and football and rib each other a bit more, have a bit more banter and everything. Have a bit of a laugh, get together and enjoy ourselves. And I can try and do that on a weekly basis. I've got to figure out a day that suits me and there's a good day to do it. That's going to be on Sam Greenwood TV. So please go and check it out, subscribe, share the content that's already there. Will be greatly appreciated. And also I'm going to try and do a quiz now and again. I think it's fun to do a quiz, combine a quiz with a little chat and everything is good fun. So I'll try and do that as well when I can. Apart from that, you'll see me on these guys' channels, like here with Nitish on Beyond the Post, or Arsenal FC Fans, or with the Blind Gooner, Daniel, or might be on Ryan's channel, the Mr. Arsenal podcast. Sometimes I'm on Simpy's channel, Simply 141 or whatever his channel's called. I can't remember now, but anyway, see me around there. I'm basically around everywhere. I'm like the town hall, I'm everywhere. So it's a good fun, and thanks again for having me. I just enjoy everyone in the chat as usual. You regulars in the chat, it's been good fun as always, and thanks for having me, and have a good evening.
Yep, hopefully we can go ahead into details with respect to what the things are happening in the upcoming weeks as well. And one recommendation from me to you is maybe the late night chat could be a good hit on Saturday night after the football.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a weekend, somewhere at the weekend. Yeah.
Yep. So big up to you as well, and I hope everyone is active on the channel as well. We'll be putting some more content on the channel, and do check out Sam Greenwood TV because he's just 30 subscribers. I think 30 or 29 subscribers away from 100. So let's push him to that 100 and make him be on. and if you haven't checked out our late night chats, you need to just see that. But remember, it's uncensored. So thank you once again, Sam, for coming on, and thank you everyone on the panel, including Adam and everyone in the chat as well. Big up to all of you, and see you soon. That's enough for episode 4. See you in episode 5 probably.